2 hours of English with Richard. My favourite bits from my daily doses of English. Is this the longest video English lesson on YouTube? Share it and leave a comment.
In 1902, the famous British writer Rudyard Kipling wrote, "I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. The names are what and why and when, and how and where and who." The 5 WH, as they're known, are the open question words in English. With them you can get any information about anything you want or need. Open questions are questions that cannot be answered by a simple yes or no. Yes or no answers are given in response to closed questions. Closed questions begin with verbs like do, have and be. Do you have a dog? Yes. Have you eaten? No. Are you tired? No. Closed questions don't get you much information. Open questions, on the other hand, cannot be answered by yes or no, and get you a lot of information. Ask all of the 5 WH questions, and you get virtually all the information you need about anything. What can ask about anything? What colour is it? What time is it? What do you call this? What kind of? Why asks for a reason. Why did you do that? Why am I doing this? Why would I want to? When asks for a time in the future or the past. When will we get there? When were you born? When does the party start? Where asks for a location. Where are you? Where am I? Where's the party going to be? Where was the battle fought? Who asks about the people involved? Who are you? Who am I? Who's going to the party? Who's the Prime Minister of England? How asks for the manner or the way of doing something. How did you know that? How could I have known? How will we get there? How can also be used to ask about a state. How hot is it now? How are you? By asking appropriate 5 WH questions, you can make sure that you haven't overlooked anything. You can use the 5 WH questions to analyse any decision you're going to make. Imagine you're planning on starting a business. What kind of business do we want to set up? Why will this business be successful? When will we start the business? Where will we operate our business from? Who will be responsible for what in the business? How will we raise the finances needed for the business? By working your way through each of the 5 WH questions, you ensure that you don't miss anything important. You can use these open questions for any decision you have to make in any area of your life. Well, sheep baa or bleat. Dogs bark. Ravens, crows, rooks caw. Chickens and hens cluck. Frogs croak. Owls hoot. Cats meow. Ducks quack. Pigs squeal. Horses whinny or neigh. Archaic words are words rarely used in English today, except when the user wants to create a deliberate dramatic or poetic effect. However, in Northern English and Scots English, thou is still used as the second person singular pronoun. Thou is the nominative, while the objective form is thee, and the possessive is thy or thine. The verbs that follow thou normally end in st or est, as you'll see in the following sonnet from Shakespeare. Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare is possibly one of the most recognized uses of thou. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and oft is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe and eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. And the popularity of Shakespeare ensures that many archaic terms are not forgotten. The lady doth protest too much, methinks. This is a quotation from Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 2. Doth is an archaic form of does. This quotation is often misunderstood due to the change in meaning of the word protest. In Shakespeare's day, the word meant to make an affirmation. Methinks is another archaic word. It means I think. There are still some fixed expressions in modern English which use thou and thee. Fare thee well and holier than thou immediately spring to mind. Fare thee well means have a good trip or look after yourself, while holier than thou means that someone is adopting an attitude that is self-righteously pious or full of exaggerated virtue. If we look back at Sonnet 18, we can find other archaic words too. Words like art, which means are, and hath, which means has, and oft, which is a shortened version of often. Wherefore art thou, Romeo? This is commonly misinterpreted as to mean, where are you, Romeo? It doesn't. It means, why are you, Romeo? Romeo is a Montague and Juliet is a Capulet. Juliet's asking, why did Romeo have to be a Montague when Montagues and Capulets don't like each other? Eyes are what we see with. I have two eyes. My eyes are greeny blue. This means they're not quite green and they're not quite blue. They're in between, really. Now, there's a third eye, and I'm not talking about a New Age spiritualist eye of wisdom. I'm talking about the word I. In Northern British English, the word I is used to say yes. That's why I sometimes say I when I mean yes. I is also used when voting. If you support a vote, you say aye. If you don't support a vote, you say nay. So during a vote or at the end of a vote, you might hear the ayes have it. And an aye is a type of lemur that lives in Madagascar. It's the size of a cat and it's like a squirrel. It gets its name from the sound it makes. And sailors say aye aye too. On ships, if an officer gives an order, the men will say aye aye sir. This means I've understood and I'm going to do what you asked me to do. Here's a bird's eye view of the word bird. Bird can mean any feathered animal. Here are some photos of birds that I've taken over the years. Birds of a feather means two or more people who are very similar in many ways. If I say something is strictly for the birds, I mean that it's unimportant or uninteresting or useless. We can kill two birds with one stone. That's to do two things at the same time. Here I am teaching you English and showing you some nice pictures of birds at the same time. Now, none of these birds are crows. I don't find crows as interesting as these birds, but when we say, as the crow flies, we mean that it's the distance between two places measured by a straight line. Eagles have great eyesight. They have to if they want to hunt from great heights. That's why we say that someone who notices things has got eagle eyes. We can also say they have eyes like a hawk. It means the same thing. Now, if I watch someone like a hawk, it means that I'm going to keep a very close eye on them, probably because I don't trust them. If you're an early bird, you like to get up early and start work and begin things early. There's an expression in English that says, the early bird catches the worm. This means that those people who get up early and start work early get more things done and get the best choice of something. I suppose you could also caution that the early worm gets caught by the bird. But this isn't an English expression. If you go to bed late, you're sometimes called a night owl. And owls are considered to be very wise birds. If we say that someone is as wise as an owl, or that they are a wise old owl, we're saying they're intelligent and can be relied on for their advice. Most birds, however, are considered to be pretty stupid, pretty thick. That's why we call someone bird-brained if we think they're stupid. We can also call them feather-brained with the same effect. How do I know all these expressions? Well, a little bird told me. Actually, a little bird told me is an expression in itself. It means that I don't want to reveal my sources. I know these expressions because they're commonly used in English, and I'm English. A bird is also a name or a term for a girl or a girlfriend. It's considered a bit impolite, especially by birds. Now, I'm lucky enough to be free as a bird. This means that I can do what I want to do when I want to do it. If I wasn't as free as a bird, I couldn't make these daily doses of English just for you. Now, here's a peacock. Peacocks strut around with their fine feathers, displaying them to the whole world. They're very proud of their feathers. And if we say that people are as proud as a peacock, then we're saying they're like a peacock. They're strutting around, saying, look at me, aren't I wonderful? People who eat like birds eat very little. There are a surprising number of uses of the word boot in English. When I was in the military many years ago, I remember always having to bull my boots. This involved polishing the toe caps so that they were as bright and shiny as black mirrors. What a waste of time. A load of bull, really. I think it put me off polishing my boots and shoes forever. And I can't remember when I last opened a tin of shoe polish. Not only are boots things you wear on your feet, but the word also refers to the part of a car in which you put your luggage. Stick your boots in the boot, you might hear someone say. You might be given the boot. This means to be sacked from your job. Have you heard about John? He's been given the boot because he couldn't get his computer to boot up. Boot up, in computing terminology, means to start working by loading the operating system. You can also boot someone or something out of somewhere. This means to remove them forcibly. You'll probably never have to eat a boot in your life. Boots are normally made of a strong leather and would take a lot of effort to eat. That's why we can say of meat that is not very tender or easy to eat, it's as tough as old boots. This idiom is self-explanatory. Someone who's a bossy boots loves to tell other people what to do. You can put the boot in too. This means to make a situation much worse than it already is. After being given the boot from his job, he was driving home when someone crashed into the boot of his car. When he eventually got home, his girlfriend really put the boot in by announcing that she was leaving him for another man. He certainly wasn't about to lick her boots to win her back. She was always far too big for her boots anyway, he thought. A real bossy boots she had turned out to be, always telling him what to do and complaining about money or holidays or some other nonsense to boot. If she hadn't left, he would probably have booted her out of the flat anyway. No, the best revenge he could exact on the man who stole her was to let him keep her. The boot would soon be on the other foot, he thought, booting up his computer and heading for an online dating site and a job-finding site to boot. Bubbles are tiny spheres of gas. They're often seen rising up through liquids like lemonade, champagne and beer. These bubbles are rising up through a glass of Spanish cider, a drink made from the fermented juice of apples. We call this a sparkling cider. Lemonade is also a sparkling or fizzy drink. The fizz refers to the bubbles. We also call non-alcoholic fizzy drinks pop. Notice how the bubbles form. There are tiny imperfections in the glass, and there are specks of dust and fibres inside the glass. These imperfections trap tiny pockets of air. In a liquid, molecules continually bounce around. That's why a liquid is a liquid and not a solid. Freeze a liquid and the molecules lose their energy and stop moving around. A frozen liquid is a solid. Fermented beverages like cider and beer contain lots of carbon dioxide dissolved in the liquid. It's this gas which gives fizzy drinks their fizz. The molecules of carbon dioxide meet the tiny pockets of trapped air on the imperfections inside the glass. The molecules are energetic enough to break out of the liquid and enter the pockets of air. This causes the pocket of gas to grow and a bubble forms. As you can see, some bubbles can grow quite large, relatively speaking. This is because the imperfection is large enough to anchor the bubble down and thus prevent it rising up through the liquid. Eventually, however, all the bubbles grow big enough to break free and head towards the top of the glass, where they form foam. We call the foam of bubbles at the top of a glass of beer or cider a head. How many bubbles you get in a liquid depends on how much dissolved carbon dioxide it contains and how many tiny pockets of trapped air there are. A clean glass will have very few bubbles, while a dirty glass will have many. Some champagne glasses are specially made to have imperfections at the bottom to encourage the formation of bubbles. Once most of the carbon dioxide has escaped from the liquid, there are no more bubbles left. When the bubbles have stopped forming, we say the drink has gone flat. Bubbles don't form in the bottle because the liquid is under pressure. When you release the pressure by opening the lid, the gas begins to bubble out of the liquid. You can hear the sudden release of pressure when you open a fizzy drink or a can of pop. There's a sudden hiss of gas as the seal is broken. A pop is the sound that a cork makes when you open a bottle of champagne. The pressure of carbon dioxide in a bottle of champagne forces it out of the bottle with a pop. You pop the cork. And where does all this carbon dioxide come from? In non-fermented fizzy drinks, the carbon dioxide is injected in by the manufacturer. In fermented sparkling drinks, the carbon dioxide is created by yeast. These are tiny animals that eat sugars and produce carbon dioxide and alcohol. The same thing happens in bread. It's the bubbles of carbon dioxide that makes bread rise. It also forms the spaces inside bread. In 1932, Ernest Hemingway wrote the non-fiction book Death in the Afternoon. In it, he examines the ceremony, traditions and history of bullfighting. Of the controversy even then surrounding bullfighting, he wrote, "Anything capable of arousing passion in its favour will surely raise as much passion against it." We arrived at the bull ring around 6 in the evening. A great crowd had gathered outside and was slowly making its way inside through numerous doorways. The bull ring of Seville, known as the Maestranza, is the oldest in Spain and was begun in 1749. It seats over 12,000 spectators. Our seats, the cheap seats, were way at the top of the bull ring, under the arches that cover the top row of seats. The seats are hard stone seats, and I was glad I'd followed advice and had brought a cushion to sit on. By the time the bullfight began at 6:30, the seats in the stadium were packed to capacity. From what I saw, all bullfights appear to follow the same procedure. First, there's an opening ceremony, led by 2 heralds on horseback. These men hold the key to the bull gate. A president is in charge of the bullfight and ensures that the strict rules of tradition and ceremony are followed correctly. Behind the heralds come the bullfighters. In each bullfight there are 3 main bullfighters. These wear costumes embroidered in gold. The 3 main bullfighters each have 3 assistant bullfighters who wear silver embroidered costumes. These teams of 4 bullfighters each have 2 lancers on horseback. Their horses are heavily armoured to protect them from the bull's horns during the second stage of the bullfight. The opening parade presents the teams of bullfighters to the president. It reminded me of the "We who are about to die salute you, Caesar" bit you see in old gladiator films. At the back of the parade come 2 teams of mules whose job will be to remove the dead bull from the ring. The president gives permission for the bullfight to begin. The heralds hand the keys to the men at the bull gate and leave the arena. The bullfighters prepare their cloaks and get ready for stage 1 of the first 3-stage fight. The senior bullfighter and his team face the first bull. In this case, the bullfighter was Julian Lopez, known as El Juli, who would face the first bull. Bullfighting bulls are bred by breeders who try to breed aggressive, brave and powerful bulls. The bull that El Juli was facing was called Infamous and was a black bull weighing 539 kilograms. 539 kilograms of angry bull is more dangerous than a football. It's hardly surprising then that bullfighters get paid a lot more than professional footballers. A trumpet sounds and stage 1 begins with the release of the bull into the arena. The bull chases everything that moves, and everything being chased moves very quickly indeed. In stage 1 of the bullfight, the bullfighter is observing the bull to see how it reacts and how aggressive it is. Not getting to know the bull now could prove to be a fatal oversight. The lancers on horseback are then brought back into the ring. Their job is to stab the bull in the shoulder with a lance. Apparently, this causes the bull to drop its horns when charging, making it a little less dangerous for the bullfighter during the 3rd stage of the fight. The horses are well protected and are blindfolded, so they don't get scared. The powerful bull charges the horse and lifts it from the ground. The lancer thrusts his lance into the bull's shoulders. The assistant bullfighters in their silver costumes distract the bull from the lancer, and the lancer leaves the arena. Wounded and bleeding, the bull has grown wary and more focused. The trumpet sounds again to announce the 2nd stage. In the 2nd stage, the 3 assistant bullfighters must try to plant small flags in the shoulders of the bull. These small flags are actually like smaller versions of the lancer's lance, and act in the same way to further weaken the bull. After the 3 assistant bullfighters have stabbed their flags into the bull, the trumpet again sounds and the 3rd and final stage of the bullfight begins. This is the fight between the main bullfighter, dressed in his gold outfit, and the injured bull. Now the bullfighter carries a red cape and a sword. The fight lasts for several minutes until the bull is exhausted enough for the bullfighter to kill it. Many people think that the red of the bullfighter's cape attracts the bull. Evidence suggests that bulls are colourblind. They charge at the biggest thing they see rather than the colour. The red is really to stop the blood of the bull showing too clearly. Even injured, the bull is a formidable animal, well capable of killing any man reckless enough to face it. Bullfighters are badly injured or even killed every year. After managing to stay alive, the bullfighter changes his sword for the sharp killing sword. He positions himself in front of the bull and thrusts the sword into the animal's back. He's aiming to pierce the bull's heart. This final thrust must be done with skill and accuracy. Sometimes the bullfighter misses his mark and has to try again until he's successful. Once the bullfighter has thrust his sword into the bull's heart, the 3 assistant bullfighters surround the animal until it collapses from loss of blood. From what I saw, it takes a couple of minutes for the bull to fall to the ground from loss of blood. When the animal does fall, one of the assistant bullfighters steps forward with a small dagger. He stabs the bull through the spine, just behind the head, finally killing it. The bull dead, the mules are brought in and a chain is wrapped around the bull's horns. The animal is dragged unceremoniously around the bull ring and out through the gate. The entire procedure is repeated for the 5 remaining bulls. Once all 6 bulls have died, the crowd goes home. It took around 2 hours to kill the 6 bulls, and each individual bullfight lasted around 20 minutes. The meat of the bulls killed in the bull ring is sold by butchers or served in bars around the city. I can chop down a tree and I can chop up a tree, and the fact I can chop it down and chop it up gave me the idea that chop might be a useful word to teach in a daily dose of English, so here goes. A chop is a type of, or a cut of meat. From a pig we get pork chops, from a sheep we get lamb chops, from a cow we don't get chops, we get steaks. Now, a chop can also be your jaw, your chops. And a helicopter, because of the noise it makes, is also called a chopper, as is a motorcycle. This is a chopper. It's been chopped. The sea can be choppy when there are lots of waves. And the Chinese use chopsticks to eat their food. In Japan, you can use a karate chop in karate. And the words chop and shop sound very similar and give students a lot of problems. Chop, shop, chop, shop. You'll need to practice. Before I start, I should point out that I'm not a Cockney. Cockney is a term used to define a geographic area known as the East End of London. Linguistically, that is from a language point of view, it refers to the type of English spoken by the people who live in the East End. Although the term Cockney was first recorded in a poem in 1362, The Vision of William Concerning Piers Plowman by William Langland, its present meaning was first used in 1617. The present meaning describes anyone born within the sound of the bells of St. Mary le Bow Church. Due to the area over which the sound of the Bow bells could be heard historically, all East Enders are Cockneys, but not all Cockneys are East Enders. The linguistic features of Cockney include the greater than average use of the glottal stop, the use of double negatives, and the vocalization of the dark L. But the thing that most people, like Christoph, associate with Cockney is their rhyming slang. During this daily dose of English, any Cockney accent that I manage to reproduce will necessarily be false. This attempt to mimic a Cockney accent by those who are not true Cockneys is sometimes called mockney. Even though I used to work at Guy's Hospital in London, and this hospital is in the area understood to be covered by the sound of the Bow Bells, my attempts at Cockney will be a bit pony to say the least. Pony and trap, trap, crap. Nevertheless, let's take a butcher's at some examples of Cockney rhyming slang. Normally, rhyming slang is created by the replacement of a common word or phrase with 2 or 3 other words that rhyme with the original. The original word is normally left out, and the origin of the rhyming slang becomes obscure. Sometimes the original word can be completely obscured over time. Take the slang term arse, for example. This means bottom or arse. Why? Because arse became bottle and glass, which became the slang term bottle. Or, in Cockney terms, bottle. Bottle was then rhymed with Aristotle, which became Aris. Some words have made it into mainstream English. Take the word Burke, for instance. The OED defines it as a fool. He's a right Burke. People use this common expression every day without any idea that it originated from the name of a famous fox hunt, the Berkeley Hunt. Berkeley Hunt, hunt. Hunt is a rhyming slang for a word that is altogether more offensive, and one which I can't imagine anyone would use in public. Would you Adam and Eve it? Eve. Believe. Believe it. I ain't heard a dicky bird. Dicky bird. Bird. Word. Come on, use your loaf. Loaf of bread. Bread. Head. The trouble's been rabbiting on all night on the bone. Trouble and strife. Strife. Wife. Rabbit and pork. Pork. Talk. Dog and bone. Bone. Phone. He's telling porkies. Porkies. Pork pies. Pies. Lies. Let's have a butcher's. Butcher's hook. Hook. Look. She's got long bacons. Bacon and eggs. Eggs. Legs. He's brown bread. Brown bread. Bread. Dead. Your plates are killing me. Plates of meat. Meat. Feet. I need to get myself a new whistle. Whistle and flute. Flute. Suit. How much for the nanny? Nanny goat. Goat. Coat. She's just had her barnet fixed. Barnet fair. Fair. Hair. It's cold out. Put on your daisies. Daisy roots. Roots. Boots. I'm off down the Frog. To the battle. Frog and Toad. Toad. Road. Battle cruiser. Cruiser. Boozer. Off licence. We have a saying in English, to eat like a horse. This means that you eat a lot. I think we should change that to eat like a caterpillar. I mean, just look at this caterpillar. It's a stomach with a mouth at one end. I found it today while walking in the park, and watching it eat gave me an idea for a daily dose of English. And caterpillars do eat. It's all they do. They have voracious appetites that can never be satisfied. They don't just eat, they devour food. They don't savor the flavor of their food like we do. They don't relish the texture of their food as you or I might. They just eat. They devour anything that's edible in their path. They spend their days feeding on succulent plants. They chew up the leaves with their tireless jaws. They are consumed with the need to consume, eaten up by the need to eat. They chew the leaves and swallow mouthful after mouthful, and they never feel full. Bloated they may be, but they never stop chomping on whatever they find to eat. This particular caterpillar is about the size of my middle finger. Imagine if it was the size of a man. No supermarket in the world would be safe. But you'd never get them on a diet. They'd never watch what they eat. You see, they need all this food because they have to undergo one of the most amazing transformations in nature. And it takes an awful lot of energy to metamorphose from this into this. Radiologist, for instance, is made up of the words radio and logist. Logist means one who understands something, while radio refers to radiation. Anesthesiologist is an American term for anaesthetist. That is, a doctor who stops you feeling pain during surgery. Derma means skin. A doctor who specializes in skin diseases is a dermatologist. Heme means blood. A doctor who specializes in blood is a hematologist. Surgeons operate on people. There are many types of surgeon, and they all specialize in different parts of the body. A brain surgeon is normally called a neurosurgeon because neuro means nerves. A gynecologist treats problems particular to women, in a similar way that an obstetrician treats women during pregnancy and childbirth. If you have a problem with your stomach or intestines, you have a problem in your gastrointestinal tract. You need to see a gastroenterologist to put things right. Got a kidney problem? Go and see a nephrologist. If you can't see a nephrologist because your eyes are playing up, you need to see an ophthalmologist or an optician. If you break a bone, you need to see a bone specialist. These are called orthopedic surgeons, though among the medical fraternity they're known as orthopods, because it's easier to say. Children have their own doctors too. These are called pediatricians. Plastic surgeons are not made of plastic. Plastic surgeons change the way we look by surgical means. When I finally go mad from making too many daily doses of English, I'll be taken to see a psychiatrist. And a doctor who's not a very good doctor, or someone who pretends to be a doctor but is not, is called a quack. The last doctor you see is the pathologist. They tell you what you died of. I went to see my doctor the other day. I said, "Doctor, doctor, I think I'm losing my memory." He said, "When did this start?" I said, "When did what start?" The beep of a car horn, or the toot of a car horn. The beeping of an alarm clock. The ticking of a clock. The chiming of a clock. A gunshot. The gurgling of a stream. The ringing of an alarm going off. The splash of a stone in water. The ringing of a phone. The throb of an engine. The toot of a horn. The whir of machinery. The slamming of a door. The squeak of a wooden door. Nowadays, meat refers to the parts of animals that we normally eat and the types which butchers normally sell. Human beings are made of flesh, but we don't eat human beings. Therefore, the flesh of people is not considered to be meat. However, if someone is very thin, we might say that they need to put a bit of meat on, or they need to get some meat on their bones. The most famous use of the word flesh in English literature is found in Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. In this play, Shylock lends money to Antonio, the merchant of the play's title. Shylock's bargain with Antonio demands that, should Antonio fail to repay the loan by a certain date, he will forfeit a pound of flesh. When the date comes round and the debt has not been settled, Shylock takes Antonio before a court, where he demands his pound of flesh. He doesn't get his pound of flesh, however, as it's pointed out that it's flesh and not blood which he's entitled to take from Antonio under the terms of the agreement. As human beings are made of flesh and blood, it's impossible for Shylock to cut out from Antonio's body a pound of flesh without shedding blood. To shed even one drop of blood while extracting his pound of flesh from Antonio would be an illegal act. Shylock is forced to give up his claim. The American Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, defines meat this way. Meat is the properly dressed flesh derived from cattle, from swine, from sheep or goats, sufficiently mature and in good health at the time of slaughter, but is restricted to that part of the striated muscle which is skeletal, or that which is found in the tongue, in the diaphragm, in the heart, or in the esophagus, and does not include that found in the lips, in the snout, or in the ears, with or without the accompanying and overlying fat, and the portions of bone, sinew, nerve, and blood vessels which normally accompany the flesh and which may not have been separated from it in the process of dressing it for sale. The FDA also defines flesh in this way. Flesh is any edible part of the striated muscle of an animal. The term animal, as herein used, indicates a mammal, a fowl, a fish, a crustacean, a mollusk, or any other animal used as a source of food. This daily dose of English is hot off the press. Hot off the press is an idiom. That is, you cannot tell what the meaning is from the words alone. You have to know a little about the background of the idiom. A press is a machine that's used to print things. Often it's used to print newspapers. That's why we call the people who report the news the press. Wait until the press get hold of this story. It will be all over the newspapers. Now, news is only news if it's new, hence the name. You can't have news that's old. That's just old news, and nobody is really interested in old news. That's why when something huge and significant happens in the world, it's reported in all forms of the media for a day or two at least. Then it appears to be forgotten. People struggle to cope with the effects of earthquakes and volcanoes for months after the event itself, but the public have an insatiable appetite for new news, not old news. What was massive news days before barely gets a mention when the public has grown bored with the story. That's why so-called celebrities are always trying to get themselves noticed by the press. They do things that they know will get them noticed and gain them some media attention. Once a celebrity becomes old news, they're no news at all and are soon forgotten about. Old news is cold news, but take a newspaper straight off the printing press and the actual paper itself will be hot, or at least warm. That's what we mean by hot off the press. The news is so new that the paper it's written on has not yet cooled. We can use this idiom to refer to any news that is very new. I took this photograph in the street at Seville's April Fair in the last 5 years. In the photograph you can see a group of 6 girls in the doorway of a building. There are 6 girls in the picture and they're deep in conversation. The girls are all in traditional Spanish dresses. The picture is in black and white, so we need to put a little colour in to make it more useful. That's better. It's now in colour. The girls have coloured flowers in their hair which match the colours of their dresses. Can you see the girl in the red dress with the red flower in her hair? Of course you can. She stands out from the others in the picture and she's in the foreground. Likewise, the girl in the orange dress with the orange earrings is easy to see, even though she's in the background and is partially hidden by the other girls in the group. Can you see the girl in the red dress? Ah, which girl do I mean? Do I mean the girl in the red dress on the left or the one on the right? Because there is now more than one girl in a red dress, I need to be more specific. Can you see the girl who's bending down in the red dress? By adding a relative clause, who is bending down, I make my question more specific. Can you see the girl in the red dress with the beige-coloured shawl? Yes, she's the one on the right. The other girl in the red dress does not have a shawl in her hands. Can you see the girl in the blue dress? Again, I need to be more specific, as there are several girls in blue dresses in the photograph. Can you see the girl in the dark blue dress? Here we add the adjective dark to the adjective blue to specify which of the blue dresses we're talking about. Can you see the girl with her back to the camera in the picture? There are 2 of them in the photo, so again I need to be more specific. Can you see the girl in the blue dress with her back to the camera? She's the girl who's younger in years and shorter in stature than the rest in the group. See the girl in the blue dress standing next to the girl in the green dress? Here I use a preposition, next to, in my question. This makes the question more specific about which girl in the picture I'm talking about. He's a cracking player. This means that he's very good at his job. Another similar term is smashing. She's a smashing teacher, nurse, doctor. There are, of course, many standard adjectives you can use to say that someone is good at their job. These include good, great, wonderful, excellent, incredible, unbelievable, fantastic, marvellous, terrific, wondrous and tremendous. You can also say that someone is fab. She's a fab cook. Fab is short for fabulous. Other good adjectives you can use are howling and rattling. They mean extraordinarily good and are often used as intensifiers. This is a rattling good or howling good daily dose of English, isn't it? The opposite of good is, of course, bad. Anna mentions lemon as an adjective for someone who's bad at their job. While you can use lemon to refer to people, it's most commonly used with objects, particularly with cars and other vehicles which are defective or unsatisfactory. That car you sold me is a real lemon. Stinker is a similar term to lemon. This car's a real stinker. The most polite way of saying that someone is bad at their job is to say, he's not the best. He's not the best doctor. He's not the best plumber. He's not the best pilot in the world. We have a wealth of adjectives we can use ranging from the polite to the frankly impolite. We could say, not very good, ineffective, ineffectual, bad, second-rate, useless. Intensifiers can be added for effect. He's an absolutely useless player. Numpty is a favourite one of mine. It means stupid person. What a numpty. One of the most offensive ways to say that someone is bad at their job would be to say that they're crap. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who are crap at their jobs. Avoid them if you can. An equally colourful adjective is tosser, which is a British term for a stupid or despicable person. Footballers who miss an easy goal are frequently given this sobriquet by their underwhelmed fans. And to call someone a complete waste of space shows a distinct lack of confidence in their abilities to do whatever job it is they're making a pig's ear of. From school I remember the basic symbols that most people are familiar with, even if we're not particularly good at manipulating them. The most basic of these are Let's start with the first one. This is the addition sign. We say it as plus or add. 1 plus 2, 4 add 9. The next one is the subtraction sign. We say it as minus or subtract or take. 1 minus 2. 13 subtract 12. 99 take 7. Then we have the multiplication sign. We say this as times or multiplied by. 3 times 8. 26 multiplied by 3. The next is the division sign. I discovered that this is also called the obolus. You can also show division as... We say this as divided by or over. 3 divided by 1. 10 divided by 5. 6 over 3. The last of the common symbols is the equals sign. We say this as equals or is equal to. Other symbols I remember from my school days are... So we can look at these too. This one is the square root. We say the square root of. The square root of 4 is equal to 2. This one is the percentage sign. We say percent. 100%. This one is pi. This is a mathematical constant which begins 3.141592,653 and apparently has no end. This is an irrational number, apparently, though I've always been of the opinion that all numbers are irrational. People seem to be fascinated by pi for the reason that it has no end. The only thing I can remember about it is that the circumference of a circle equals pi times its diameter, or something like that. The next symbol is the degree symbol. We say degrees, 90 degrees, 360 degrees. Then we have the symbol for infinity, and that's about all I know about this one. Lastly, we have the plus-minus sign. We say plus or minus, 6 plus or minus 2. I've absolutely no idea why anyone would want to do this, but then again I teach English. My dislike of mathematics stems from my teacher making me stay in class at playtime because I couldn't memorize my multiplication tables when I was about 7 years old. I'm 7 times 7 now, and I still don't know the multiplication tables by heart, and I still don't like mathematics. The word off is one of the most useful words in the English language. Because of its many uses, however, it can be a little confusing. This daily dose of English will show you some of the ways we can use the word off. To get off is to remove yourself from something like a bus, train or plane. You can get off a horse, a camel, an elephant, a motorcycle or a bicycle, but you can't get off a car. Food can go off. The milk's gone off. When applied to food, to go off means to go bad. I can go off too. I can go off running. This means that I used to go running, but I went off it. I stopped doing it. So when someone goes off something, it means that they stop liking it. However, if I say I'm off running, it can also mean that I'm going for a run. You can go off if you're actively doing anything, really. They've gone off on their holidays. You can go off someone or something. You stop liking them or it. Are you going off the word off? If I say I'm off my head, it means I've gone a bit crazy. When I'm ready to leave, I'll say I'm off. Or I'll be off. That means I'm off home. I'm going to make my way to my house. I can be put off. This means that I'm repulsed or repelled by something. It wasn't the price of the food in the restaurant that put me off. I was put off by the large rat sitting in the doorway. And I can put something off, which strangely enough means that I'm delaying something until a later time. You can be knocked off a bike or fall off a horse. And when something is very badly damaged beyond repair, we say it's a write-off. Today we're going to look at some vocabulary. Specifically, we're going to look at the vocabulary of paper bags. Wow, exciting, I hear you say. How can you make an English lesson based on paper bags? Well, before you press the stop button, bear with me. There's a lot of vocabulary to be found in the world of brown paper bags, I can tell you. In fact, I'm going to tell you. So without further ado, our first bag is a common or garden brown paper bag. Common or garden means ordinary. It's something that you wouldn't be surprised about if you found in your own garden. Something that you don't normally expect to see in your garden, and therefore something that cannot be called common or garden, is a man wearing a paper bag on his head carrying an umbrella. What can we say about this paper bag? We can say that the paper bag contains a man's head, or that the man has got a paper bag on his head. You would probably use the latter phrase, as a paper bag containing a man's head conjures up images of gangsters and contract killers. Why would a man have a paper bag covering his face? Perhaps he's a very ugly man. Perhaps he doesn't want to be recognized. Who knows? He has an umbrella because it's starting to rain, and he doesn't want the paper bag to get wet. When paper bags get wet, they turn soggy and fall to pieces. If your paper bag gets wet, the things in it are likely to fall onto the floor. In this case, the man's head will not fall onto the floor. It's firmly attached to his body by his neck. Here's an empty paper bag. It's the sort you find in shops. They were designed to put your shopping in rather than as a type of headgear. This man has 4 brown paper bags, but they're not for putting on his head. He doesn't mind being recognized, and he doesn't consider himself ugly. He has no need to wear a paper bag on his head. The man has been doing his shopping in the supermarket. His shopping trolley contains his shopping, which has been put into 4 brown paper bags by the store. He's going to take the 4 paper bags out to his car, which is parked outside in the car park. It might not look similar to the paper bags we've just been looking at, but this is a paper bag too. This one is much more expensive than the common or garden brown paper bags that the shops give you to take your shopping home in. This is a gift bag. More specifically, it's a metallic gold gift bag. It's designed to add a touch of elegance to any gift you might put in it. Such bags normally have a reinforced base, cotton rope handles, a gift tag, and tissue to wrap your gift in. Just wrap your gift in the tissue and place it inside the bag. Write something appropriate on the tag and hand your bag to your chosen recipient. This is a gift bag too. This one is a wine gift bag. It's designed to hold bottles of wine or champagne. It's made of a corrugated paper and needs to be fairly strong if your bottle is to arrive at its destination unscathed. This man also has a paper bag. He's delivering newspapers and he carries them in a strong fabric bag. He's a paper boy and he's delivering newspapers which he carries around in his paper bag. These students have carried their lunch to school in paper bags. The Americans call these brown bag lunches, while the British call them packed lunches. The boy is trying to scare the girls by popping his paper bag between his hands. There's an expression in English which uses paper bag. We say that someone couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. This is a humorous way of saying that someone is not very good at something. It can also be used with verbs like argue and act. He couldn't act his way out of a paper bag. As you may already know, I'm a writer as well as an English teacher. I pen articles, short stories and books. But I don't use a pen anymore. I use a keyboard. Nevertheless, I can still say that I pen the things I write. I wonder how many more works Shakespeare might have penned if he'd had a computer instead of a quill. A quill is a pen made from the flight feather of a bird. The flight feathers are the big feathers that form the trailing edge of a bird's wing. The word pen comes from the Middle English, pen, which means feather. The lower part of the feather, or pen, was cut into a nib which was dipped in ink. The ink-filled nib could then be used to write with. Interestingly, a female swan is called a pen, and I'm not sure if there's any connection. A male is called a cob. It's amazing to think that Shakespeare wrote all of his marvellous works using a feather and ink. Nowadays there are many types of pen, though the ballpoint pen is the most common. This type of pen is cheap and reliable. It rolls ink onto the paper using a small ball at the end of a reservoir of ink. You can also have a fountain pen. This type also uses ink held in a reservoir inside the pen. The reservoir is either a cartridge, which is disposable, or it can be filled from a bottle of ink. The ballpoint pen is designed to be cheap and disposable. The fountain pen can be refilled many times and can be very expensive. Fountain pens have metal nibs. Copper nibs were known to have been used in Pompeii around in the 1st century AD. But metal nibs didn't become commonly used in pens until around 1822. The first fountain pen was invented by a Romanian, Ponaru, in 1827. I don't speak Romanian, so I've probably mispronounced the name. The ballpoint pen was invented by a Hungarian, Laszlo Biro, in 1938. I don't speak Hungarian any more than I speak Romanian, but I think I pronounced Biro correctly because we still call cheap plastic ballpoint pens biros. So writers can pen works on a computer without even going near a pen. This makes me wonder if we'll still be using pens in the future. Perhaps the pen's days are numbered, and the only place you'll be able to find them is in a museum. People make sounds. People make sounds all the time, and these sounds have names. I've put together a collection of some of the common sounds that human beings make, so that you'll be able to put a name to them when you hear them or when you're talking about them. Some of the sounds are pleasant and some are less pleasant, but we all make them. For instance, we can clap our hands together, and this produces the sound we call clapping. When we're scared, we might scream, moo. If we have got a sore throat, perhaps we'll take some medication and we will gargle with the medication. We can gasp. We can laugh. And we can giggle or chuckle. We can sigh. And some people slurp their drinks. Before gulping it down. If you have a cold, you might find yourself sniffing. Or even sneezing. And if you've got a cold and you're sniffing and sneezing, it might make you snore when you're asleep. And of course, people also burp. And they fart. That wasn't me, honest. Positive people enjoy life by accepting whatever life offers them. They have faith in life rather than being afraid of life. They don't complain about what life has handed them, and they see every situation as an opportunity. This comes from their self-reliance and their self-confidence. Their flexibility helps them to adjust to change. Positive people are open-minded and welcome new ideas. They're tolerant rather than intolerant. They can accept another's view rather than insisting on their own point of view. They avoid negative thoughts. Positive people are a joy to be around, and positive people absorb the positivity of others while radiating their own positivity. Negative people drain the positive energy from others until they've made everyone miserable and down. Positive people don't listen to gossip or other meaningless chit-chat. People who gossip are full of negative thoughts and are best avoided by positive folk. Positive people's abhorrence of the small-minded gossip comes from their own consideration and thoughtfulness towards others and their willingness to trust. Positive people act right away without making excuses or avoiding doing. They're systematic and organized and seek perfection rather than allowing imperfection to remain. However, they are realistic enough and self-assured enough to avoid the trap of perfectionism. Their self-discipline helps them to achieve their goals, aided by their persistence and determination. They keep focused on their goals and ambitions and are motivated to achieve. These traits are easily seen through their enthusiasm. Positive people express themselves in a positive way. Their speech is full of positive ideas and thoughts, and rarely allows negative thoughts to intrude. They're also candid and express their ideas and feelings openly. They're humble, and their humility avoids the deceit that arrogant, conceited and egocentric people indulge in. Positive people value honesty above all things, and can easily see through dishonesty. They're generous and giving rather than stingy or selfish. They express goodwill rather than ill will or malice, and find it almost impossible to hate. Positive people are also loyal and devoted. However, show them ingratitude and you may well wonder where they went. They are self-giving rather than self-centered, and they value sincerity over insincerity. Positive people have positive body language. That is, they stand upright and look the world in the eye. They smile a lot and use positive gestures. Laughter and humour make up a large part of their lives. As Anne said, she likes to chuckle and giggle when listening to funny stories. Even so, positive people have an obvious maturity about them, even at a young age. They're serious, as in not silly or trivial, and they're realistic. Finally, positive people tend to take responsibility for their actions, and they're unlikely to blame others for their own mistakes, or the universe for their failings. Today I'm going to tell you the story of Romeo and Juliet, in a somewhat less elegant and considerably shortened form to that which William Shakespeare originally wrote. Romeo Montague and Juliet Capulet are the children of two families who don't get along together. Despite family differences, Romeo and Juliet fall in love when Romeo gate-crashes a party at her father's house. It's love at first sight. Romeo goes to see Friar Lawrence, who agrees to marry the two lovers in secret. The friar hopes that the marriage will end the long-standing dispute between the two families. The following day they get together at Friar Lawrence's pad, and the young lovers are married. Afterwards, Romeo bumps into Tybalt, Juliet's cousin. Tybalt challenges Romeo to a duel. Romeo is now married to Juliet, and so Tybalt is his cousin-in-law. He doesn't want to fight the duel. Romeo's friend, Mercutio, is a bit hot-headed, and doesn't know that Romeo and Juliet are married. He thinks that Romeo is being a bit of a wet lettuce, and so challenges Tybalt to a duel in Romeo's place. As Romeo tries to break up the fight between Mercutio and Tybalt, Tybalt stabs Mercutio and Mercutio dies. Romeo is a bit cheesed off with this, so he tops Tybalt to get his own back. The prince hears what has happened and banishes Romeo from the city of Verona forever. Friar Lawrence and Juliet's nurse arrange for Romeo to spend the night with Juliet before he has to leave for the city of Mantua. Juliet's father, who doesn't know about the marriage, has meanwhile decided that his daughter will marry Paris, a nobleman. Juliet goes to see Friar Lawrence to ask his advice. The friar hatches a plan for the newlyweds to escape together to Mantua and live happily ever after. The plan involves Juliet drinking a potion the night before her arranged marriage to Paris. The potion will make her appear to be dead. When Juliet gets home, her father tells her that the marriage to Paris has been brought forward, and she's to be married the following day. Friar Lawrence has thoughtfully sent a message to Romeo explaining the plan. Unfortunately, the messenger, Friar John, is delayed and the message is not delivered. As instructed, Juliet drinks the potion and is found, apparently dead, by her nurse in the morning. The grieving family place her body in the family tomb. Romeo hasn't had the friar's message, but he has heard the news of Juliet's untimely death. He hurries back to Verona, determined to die rather than live without her. He buys some strong poison from a chemist and takes it to Juliet's tomb. Paris is there mourning for his dead bride-to-be, so Romeo kills him too. Lying beside his apparently dead wife, Romeo takes the poison and dies. Friar Lawrence arrives to see Paris and Romeo dead. Oops. Juliet wakes up, sees Romeo dead, and kills herself with his dagger. The remaining members of the Capulet and Montague families arrive and decide that they ought to get along instead of squabbling constantly. Everyone in Verona is happy that the feuding families have stopped their shenanigans and look forward to a peaceful future. Students often ask me, What's the difference between salary and wages? Well, both words refer to a person's pay or earnings. The difference between the two lies in how a person is paid. Some people have fixed work contracts and are paid a fixed amount each year, however many hours they work. We call this kind of pay salary. Imagine you have a fixed contract and are expected to work a minimum number of hours every week. Your contracted salary will be paid to you each month at 1/12 of the total amount agreed each year. It doesn't matter how many hours you work beyond your contracted hours, you'll still be paid the same annual salary. Or you might be paid by the hour. You have an agreed hourly rate of pay. You may or may not have a fixed contract obliging you to work a minimum number of hours a week. If you work more hours than agreed, you'll be paid more money for the extra hours that you work. Wages are always paid to people who do casual work or are on short-term contracts. Whether you're paid a wage or receive a salary, you'll get a pay slip at the end of the month, or each week if you're paid weekly. The pay slip gives details of your gross pay, the total amount you earned, and your net pay after deductions. Deductions include income tax and social security contributions. Depending on your tax bracket, which depends on the level of your earnings, your net pay can be substantially less than your gross pay. What's the most common sound in English? What's the most important sound in English? What sound can be found in almost all English words with more than one syllable? It's this one. And it sounds like this. It's called the schwa. The schwa is a very short neutral vowel sound, the exact quality of which depends on the consonants around it. As I said, it's found in virtually all English words with more than one syllable, and it's the sound we use for the weak forms of many words. Tomek Sikorski from Poland has asked if I could help him to correctly pronounce this word. Well, Tom, the word has 3 syllables, so it must have a schwa in it somewhere. Any idea where the schwa will be? The word ear has only 1 syllable. In fact, it can be represented by the phonetic symbol ear, a diphthong. Though it looks as if this word should begin with the ear sound, it actually begins with the vowel sound that you find in the word bird. Its root word is early, early. When we add er to the end of the word to make a comparative, the new word ends with the schwa sound, as do many words that end in er. Earlier, earlier. I got up earlier today. Many other words that end in er also end in the schwa sound. The word doctor, for instance, cooker, painter, soldier, writer, teacher, all end in the schwa sound. The schwa sound can replace any vowel sound in English, and many words contain more than one schwa sound. Take the word computer. The word ends in er, so that's a schwa. But because the main stress falls on the second syllable and not the first vowel sound is also a schwa. Computer, computer. I'm using a computer to make this daily dose of English. Notice that the quality of the schwa sounds in computer are not quite the same. This is because there are different consonant sounds next to the schwa sounds. The schwa is also used for weak forms of words. These words have both weak forms and strong forms. It's the weak forms represented by the schwa sound that make spoken English so difficult for you to understand. For instance, in this sentence, there was a call for you. There was a call for you. The only strong sound, the only strong word that doesn't contain a schwa sound, is the word call. Call is the word you clearly hear. The weak forms are just a series of schwa sounds. There was a call for you. There was a call for you. We, the customers, go to the shops to buy or purchase something. We make a transaction with the owner of the shop and they provide us with goods in exchange for money. We can pay using cash or plastic. Plastic includes credit cards and debit cards. The main difference between the two is that you need money in your bank account if you want to use a debit card, but you borrow money on a credit card. Cash comes in the form of coins or paper money. Coins are called change, while paper money is called bills or notes. Each coin and note comes in different denominations. That is to say, each is worth a different amount of money. I carry my money and my debit card in my wallet. Women carry theirs in their purse. Supermarkets and department stores are not specialized shops and sell all kinds of goods. Other shops like butchers and bakers sell meat and bread respectively. Other shops specialize in things like domestic goods. These include things like washing machines and vacuum cleaners. We call these domestic appliance shops or electrical stores. You can buy clothes in a clothes shop, cold meats and cheese in a delicatessen, and fruit and vegetables at a greengrocer or on the market. Clothes are sold by item, while most food items are sold by weight. The butcher, baker, greengrocer and fishmonger will first weigh your purchase on a set of scales and then tell you the price you must pay for the items. If there's too much food on the scales, you can say, "Can I have a little less, please?" If there's not enough, you can say, "A little more, please." Fresh fish is bought from a fishmonger, while cooked fish and chips can be bought in the fish shop or a chippy. Fish and chips are a very popular British fast food. When you've decided what you want to buy in a shop, the shop assistant will enter the details in the till. The till will issue a receipt after you pay for your items. You need the receipt if you want to return the items to the shop for a refund or to exchange them. If you like beer, you can go to the off-license. There you can buy bottled or canned alcoholic drinks to take back to your home. If you want to have a relaxing drink while you're out shopping, you can go to a pub, a bar or a cafe. If you don't have much money, but you love shopping, you can go window shopping. This is to browse the shops without actually buying things. When you walk into a shop, you may be greeted by the shop assistant, who might well ask, "Can I help you?" The standard reply to this question is, "No, thank you, I'm just looking." If you're buying clothes, you might want to try them on first to see that they fit and suit you. You can try them on in a changing room. You might want to ask the shop assistant where the changing rooms are. "Excuse me, is there somewhere I could try this on?" The shop assistant will normally put your purchase in a bag for you to carry home. Items that are too big to be carried home can be delivered. There may be a charge for delivery, so it's best to check first. Do you deliver? And is there a delivery charge, or is it included in the price? You might also want to know if you can pay for the items when they arrive at your house. We call this cash on delivery. For expensive items like washing machines or televisions, you might have to pay a deposit first. This will usually be around 10%. Small is an overused and overworked adjective like big. But there are not so many synonyms for small as there are for big. Perhaps this is because small-scale things tend to escape our notice. To a whale I'm small, but to a millipede, if it notices that I exist, I'm huge. In relation to me, the millipede is tiny indeed. It's not quite microscopic because I can see it. But it is rather diminutive, isn't it? A woodlouse is tiny too. It inhabits the same microcosm that the millipede does. It's like a minuscule tank. But if you want to take a brief look into the mini-world of insects, the ants are well worth a visit. Here's one particular ant that might well wish it was not quite as petite as it is, even if it is considerably larger than its fellow ants. He's hardly puny, being a soldier. Among ants he's no midget, and he's carrying a gigantic seed. Well, he's a bit too Lilliputian to actually carry the seed, but he's determined to drag it back to the nest, regardless of the effort. Here he's having a well-earned rest. He's thinking to himself, do I have to carry this bloody great thing all the way back to the nest? Why can't I carry something small like these others are carrying? I know, I'll go and have a look and see if I can find something smaller to carry. So off he goes to have a look round the corner. Possibly his sergeant shouts at him, "Oi, you! Where's that seed he's supposed to be dragging back? Go and get it, now." So he drags it back to the path and he's on his way again back to the nest. It's a long way to the nest, especially when you're so tiny as an ant, and especially when your luggage, your baggage is so big. But eventually, after much effort, he did manage to get the seed all the way to the nest. That's what I call determination. Snails may not be the most attractive or interesting creatures on the planet, but have you ever stopped to consider what a snail is? Have you ever taken a close look at one? Well, snails are gastropods. They have a single coiled shell, and they're found all over the world. I found this one this morning in the park. It gave me the idea to make a daily dose of English about snails. Thanks to digital camera technology, we can take an up-close and personal view of this particular snail. Snails have eyes on stalks. You can see the eyes at the tip of the stalks. The lower pair of stalks are used for finding its way around the environment in which it lives. Humans can have their eyes on stalks too. This is an expression that means that the person whose eyes are on stalks has seen something very surprising or very attractive. If it feels threatened, a snail can retreat into its shell for protection. Snails move on a muscular organ called a foot. The foot has a layer of slime that the snail lays down on the ground and helps it move along the ground. You can often see a trail of silvery slime where a snail has passed. Now, one thing that snails are not is fast. In fact, it's this quality of slowness that gives us the expression "at a snail's pace." If something is progressing at a snail's pace, it's progressing extremely slowly indeed. Emails are fast. They're much faster than real-world mail. For this reason, many people call real-world mail snail mail, because it gets delivered so slowly in comparison to emails. Another animal related to the snail but lacking a shell is the slug. They don't have the shell to hide in. They do have their eyes on stalks like snails, and they do move on a foot on a layer of slime. They're also very slow movers too. In fact, we have the word sluggish that means to move very slowly and with great effort. Many people don't like slugs and snails because they're rather slimy. They're disgusting. Slugs are especially unattractive, unless you happen to be another slug, of course. There's been a twofold, a threefold, fourfold, tenfold increase in the number of students taking a daily dose of English over the past few months. The fold suffix can also be used to show decrease. There's been a sevenfold decrease in the numbers of people smoking over the last 50 years. So let's look at some other expressions that indicate rise and fall, increase and decrease. What better place to look than the currency markets, which are constantly in a state of flux? I'll put the terms in order. I'll begin with the fastest rising scenarios and end with the fastest falling ones. The golden arrow on the right will indicate in which direction the increase or decrease is. Hit a new high. Gained strongly. Rose sharply. Soared. Shot up. Rose gently. Went up half a cent. Gained slightly. Gained some ground. Recovered slightly. Levelled off. Remained steady. Remained level. Bottomed out. Dropped slightly. Weakened. Fell very slightly. Slid a little. Slipped half a cent. Fell sharply. Went into free fall. Hit a new low. Went down several cents. Plummeted. Plunged. Other expressions are to grow and to shrink. These terms are used to talk about the economy. Share prices on the stock exchange can rocket, slump, recover, hit a new peak, drop dramatically, balloon, crash, and they can experience a sizable drop in share price. Business can go into profit. Business revenue can fall dramatically. Businesses can make heavy losses. They can even go into liquidation. A watch is a device with which we tell the time. It's different to a clock, which is also a device with which we tell the time, in that you carry a watch with you. Clocks tend to stay in one place. You can have a wristwatch, which, unsurprisingly, is worn on the wrist. And you can have a pocket watch which is carried, you got it, in your pocket. And watch is also a verb that's used in many expressions in English. For example, can you watch the children? I'm going to watch a DVD. I'm going bird watching. But what am I going to watch if I watch my back, my mouth, my step, or myself? If I watch my back or I watch your back, I'm prepared for an attack from behind, either literally or figuratively. Perhaps we're walking through a dangerous neighbourhood and I need to watch my back, or rather the space behind my back that I cannot easily keep an eye on, in case someone tries to attack me. Perhaps someone is trying to get me into trouble. I need to watch my back. To watch your mouth doesn't literally mean to watch your mouth. That's a pretty difficult thing to do, isn't it? To watch your mouth actually means to be careful what you say. Watch your step can mean to be careful where you're walking. It can also mean to act with care lest you make a mistake or offend someone. To watch yourself means to be careful in a dangerous situation. If I tell you to, I'm about to insult you, but I don't want to say the words out loud. To keep a close watch on someone or something is to pay special attention to it. When you keep watch, you're guarding the safety of others. You're on watch. It's your watch when it's your turn to do the watching. You might hear someone say, "Not on my watch," which means that they're distancing themselves from something that has happened because they were not responsible for it at the time. You can warn someone about their behaviour, their language, or the fact they're in danger by saying, "Watch it," or "Watch out." And you can watch out for someone or something. This has two main meanings. To watch out for someone means to protect them, or to anticipate their arrival. People who watch the clock are waiting for something to happen. Usually they want the working day to end so that they can go home. However, people who watch the clock should be aware that a watched kettle never boils. This means that when you keep anxiously waiting for something to happen, time always seems to drag by slowly, and it seems as if what you're waiting for is taking an excruciatingly long time to happen. Bang on. That was bang on. Beautiful work. I must say that was beautiful work. Bloody good. That's bloody good work. Brilliant. That was a brilliant job. What a corker. That was a corker of a job you did. Couldn't have done better myself. Cracking. This is a cracking job you've done here. Diamond work. That's diamond work, I must say. Excellent. You're an excellent student. Exceptional. Exceptional work. First rate. Now that's what I call a first-rate job. I'm impressed. I must say we're all very impressed with your work. I'm over the moon with your work. Just amazing. You did an amazing job. Nicely done. That was nicely done. Outstanding. An outstanding job. Pretty good. That's a pretty good job. Pucker job. Trust me, she'll do a pucker job. Ripping stuff. That was ripping stuff. Solid gold. Solid gold job, my girl. Solid. Solid job, my girl. Splendid. Splendid job, I have to say. Stonking. That's a stonking job you've done there, and no mistake. Super stuff. We'd just like to say that you've done super stuff there. Superb. Best job we've seen so far. Superb. Superstar. When it comes to this job, you're a superstar. You're the bee's knees. She's the bee's knees, that's for sure. Top hole. I say, top hole, old chap. Unreal. Man, that was unreal. Way to go. I'm glad we gave you the job. Way to go. What a performance. What a performance. Thank you. Wonderful. You were wonderful. You're the best. What can I say? You're simply the best. I used to play chess on Fridays at school. I used to hate spiders. Those are all finished situations in the past. And we use used to. I used to live in England. I used to play chess. I used to hate spiders. Can we use would with any of those? With the first one, which is a continuous situation, I used to live in England, we cannot use would. With the second one, I used to play chess, we can use would because it's a repeated action or situation, that is finished in the past. So we can use would. I would play chess on Fridays at school. Can we use would with I used to hate spiders? Did I hate spiders repeatedly, over and over? No, I just hated them full stop for a long period of time. So we can't use would in that situation. We can only say I used to hate spiders. So used to is for continuous actions and situations that are finished in the past. It's also for repeated actions and situations that are finished in the past. Whereas would can only be used for repeated actions and situations in the past. I've prepared some tongue twisters here, and I'm going to attempt to read them. I'll read them slowly first and then as fast as I can. So here goes. Here's a very famous one, Peter Piper. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. If a peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peck of pepper? She sells seashells on the seashore. The shells that she sells are seashells, I'm sure. So if she sells seashells on the seashore, I'm sure that the shells are seashore shells. A little faster. She sells seashells on the seashore. The shells that she sells are seashore shells. A little faster. She sells seashells on the seashore. The shells that she sells are seashell shells, I'm sure. So if she sells seashells on the seashore, I'm sure that the shells are seashore shells. Phew. And now for my favourite, Betty Botter. Betty Botter bought some butter. But, she said, this butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter, better than the bitter butter, will but make my bitter batter better. So she bought a bit of better butter, better than the bitter butter, and made her bitter batter better. Now let's make that a little faster, shall we? Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said this butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter, better than the bitter butter, will but make my bitter batter better. So she bought a bit of better butter, better than the bitter butter, and made her bitter batter better. A little faster. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said this butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better... It's impossible. So if a native English speaker gets their tongue twisted, while trying to say these tongue twisters, what chance have you got? Are you scared of spiders? Do you have that phobia? I hope not, because I'm going to talk about spiders in this Daily Dose of English. And if you've got a phobia about spiders, then this is going to be pretty uncomfortable for you, because there's going to be pictures of spiders. And I know that in the past, even a picture of a spider made me cringe, made me freeze with fear, because I did have a phobia about spiders. I was terrified of them, especially the big ones, the big house spiders that always seemed to me about as big as my hand and would scuttle across the floor and scurry under cupboards and things. And terrifying. And if there was one in a room, I just simply couldn't stay in that room. But I lived in an old house in England. It was about 250 years old, and I think the spiders that inhabited it were just about as old and enormous. And one morning I was in the kitchen, and a huge spider that did really seem to be the size of my hand, a huge house spider, came scurrying out from under a piece of furniture in the kitchen. I froze. I was terrified. And then I thought, hang on, I'm much, much bigger than this little spider, no matter how big he thinks he is. So I gritted my teeth I bent down and I picked up the spider in my hand. And I held it, and it wriggled, and I was sweating, and I was terrified, and then I suddenly realized that it wasn't hurting me. I could have easily squished it and killed it. But I didn't. I opened the back door to the cottage, and I let him out into the garden. And now if I find a spider in the bath, it doesn't worry me. I'll just pick him up and put him outside. Because ever since I faced my fear, I've never been afraid of spiders. So I faced my fear and I overcame it. And spiders in baths, they don't come up by the plug hole, by the way. They actually fall into the bath and can't get out. You can get little ladders to help them get out, so you don't actually ever have to know they were there. But anyway, I got over my fear of spiders, so now I can look at spiders with interest rather than fear. And here's a spider that I found having his dinner on the windowsill of my house in England. That's what spiders eat, and that's why we don't have as many flies as we would have if we had no spiders. So webs, spiders spin webs, and we spin webs too, human beings. Human beings can spin a tangled web of lies. If you make numerous lies about something, you spin a tangled web of lies. And you can have a tangled web of fraud. Maybe the politicians are defrauding the state, and there's a tangled web that's very difficult to unravel and to find the truth behind. So that's how we can have a tangled web. We also have a World Wide Web, of course. You're watching this video on the World Wide Web. And yes, there are spiders on the World Wide Web. Spiders are little pieces of software that run around the web looking for new information to put in databases. They're also called crawlers or robots. But I prefer the term spiders. It seems to fit more with web. Now, money spiders, that's another type of spider. If you find a tiny spider on you in England, you can say, a money spider. And you take it off very carefully, careful not to hurt it, and you'll get good luck and money. That's why we call them money spiders. Here's a picture of a money spider that I found on a web between some bluebells in a wood. Now bear in mind, the bluebells are quite tiny flowers, probably a centimetre. You can see how small the little money spider really is. And this is another spider I found. It's a jumping spider. He's sitting on a wall in my house. He's actually on the little line between the bricks on the wall. So you can see how small he is. Like all spiders, he's got 8 legs and 8 eyes, but this one will jump. He jumps on his prey. He sits there waiting for a little fly to come by, and then he jumps on it, even though he himself is only 3 or 4 millimeters long. So if you want to get over your fear of spiders, your phobia, then make friends with a spider, pick one up and see that they're not going to hurt you. Of course, don't do this if you're in Australia, because you might pick up a black widow spider, and they're about the most deadly creatures on the planet. Pick one of them up and you won't just lose your phobia, you may well lose your life. So be careful. Sorry seems to be the hardest word. Well, so said Elton John in a 1970s hit song. But these days, sorry appears to be a very easy word to say. In fact, us Brits, we say sorry a lot. We're very polite, you see. We say please, and we say thank you, and we say sorry very often. Now, we even say sorry for things that aren't our fault. Sorry about the weather. Terribly sorry about the weather. Frightfully sorry about the weather. Like I can do anything about the weather. Why am I apologizing for it? It's like if someone bumps into you in the street. Oof, sorry. We feel this need to apologize. It's not our fault. The other person should be apologizing. Why should I apologize? But when I feel the need to apologize, I can say, sorry, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so very sorry, I'm really sorry, I'm really very sorry, I'm terribly sorry, I'm frightfully sorry, I'm extremely sorry, I'm dreadfully sorry, I'm dreadfully sorry, but I've just run over your cat. I'm terribly sorry, but your plane's already left, sir. So we can apologize a lot. We can also use sorry to say to someone, I didn't hear what you said. Sorry? Sorry? If you say sorry, the other person should repeat what they've said. A lot of students are confused by the words bill, receipt, recipe and prescription. This is Richard's recipe for getting it right. I got the idea when I went to the shops today. I went to the shops, I took some items, I took them to the till. In the till they gave me a bill. I had to pay the bill. The bill told me what I had to pay. I paid the bill and they gave me a receipt. The receipt tells me that I've paid for all the items on the bill. Now this receipt has many items on it, some of which I'm going to use in a recipe. A recipe is a set of instructions and a list of ingredients you need to make something delicious, like this for instance. That's a recipe. I always avoid doctors like the plague. However, if I was presented with a bill like this in a restaurant, I'd probably need to go to a doctor to get something for my shock. Now, when I went to the doctor, he would examine me and decide what was wrong with me, and he would want to give me something to cure me. He would write on a prescription. He would give me the prescription, and I would go to the chemist or the pharmacy, and the pharmacy would read the prescription and give me whatever the doctor told them to give me. I would then take the medicine or whatever else was given, and I would get better. That's a prescription. So a bill is telling you what you owe. A receipt tells everybody that you paid for what you owed. A recipe gives you instructions for making something delicious. And a prescription is a note from the doctor telling a pharmacy to give you some medicine to make you better. What are you made of? What am I made of? I'm made of flesh and blood. Cut me and I bleed. Okay? I am flesh and blood. My t-shirt's made of cotton. It's cotton just like it was on the plant. A pen, a mouse, a keyboard, they're all made of plastic. Yeah, many things are made of plastic. They're still plastic. They're recognizable plastic. The shelf behind me, it's made of wood. Yeah. It's still wood. It's recognizable as wood. My t-shirt's green. My t-shirt's green because it's been dyed. A dye is made from oil. Other things we make from oil are plastics. So the plastic in a mouse or a keyboard is made from oil. The shelf behind me, it's made of wood, but it's made from trees. But it's not a tree anymore, any more than the plastic things are still oil. They've changed their form. And when things change form, we say they're made from. The shelf is made from a tree, but it's not a tree anymore. The mouse and the keyboard are made from oil, but they're not oil anymore. That's the secret between made from and made of. I hope this helped. Bye. My moustache is killing me today. I don't normally have a moustache, but I thought I'd have one today. What do you think? Handsome, eh? Well, other things can kill us besides moustaches. My feet are killing me because I've been for a long walk. My back's killing me because I picked up some heavy weights. And we can kill anything that's alive. We can particularly kill two birds with one stone, which means to do something or to do two things with only the effort of one thing. We can also figuratively kill things too, like a light or an engine. Kill the engine, kill the light, means to turn them off. We can kill time, which means to use up time. I've got a lot of time to kill. We can be dressed to kill, very stylish and fashionable, a bit like me. If looks could kill, when somebody gives you a really nasty look. If looks could kill. And we could kill for something too. I'd kill for a Nobel Peace Prize. If you move in for the kill, you're preparing to do the final part of something. The salesman moved in for the kill. And you can make a killing, which means to make a lot of money or be very successful in something. Let's first have a look at some words and expressions that use the words high and tall. The following are words that use high in English. High altar, highball, highbrow, high chair, high church, high court, high explosive, high five, high flyer, high ground, high-handed, hijinks, highland, highmost, high-minded, high priest, high-ranking, high-reaching, high roller, high school, high speed, high street, high water, highway. We can speak in a high voice. We can be highly strung, though we may be living the high life, or we wish to high heaven that we were. If I'm ill, I can have a high fever. Human beings are one of the higher apes, which is why we like to pay high prices for things we don't really need, while the lower apes are content with a banana or two at high noon. The following are words that use tall in English. Tall boy, tall order, tall ship, tall story. We can walk tall through tall grass. So you can see that high is certainly more commonly used than tall in English. Tall is used to talk about people's stature. A tall person is high of stature, according to the Oxford English Dictionary. Notice the use of the word high to describe the adjective tall. There's an expression in English, tall, dark and handsome, which is used to talk of a type of attractive man. The OED also says that we can use tall to refer to things which are high and lofty, and especially those which are high in proportion to their width. We have the tall ships race, and the tallest summit in a range of mountains. So the OED uses high to define tall, but does not use tall to define high. This, and the fact that the entry for high in the OED runs to 29 pages, while the entry for tall runs to 6, suggests to me that high is the more important of the two words. Anyone who professes to know the rules of usage for the words high and tall is telling a tall story. I'll walk with my head held high, even if I can't adequately formulate such a rule. At least I won't be with a high jump for not being able to find a rule. However, there is one rule that I would certainly urge you to follow. That is never to use high to refer to a person. You can use high or tall to refer to most things, but not to people. High nowadays has a new meaning, that of being under the influence of drugs. That man's tall means he is of greater than average height. That man's high means he's off his head from the effects of some illegal substance. When I was a policeman, I arrested a man for possession of heroin. He was sitting on the top of a hill, and when he saw me coming towards him, he injected the syringe into the ground, the syringe of heroin. I later asked him in interview, "Why did you inject the heroin into the hill? Wasn't it high enough already?" When this question was read out in the High Court, even the old judge was forced to smile. Hello. Before we start this, I just want to show you that I've got absolutely nothing up my sleeves, okay? Nothing in my hand, nothing on my sleeve. I want to show you something that a friend of mine explained to me once. He said, take a piece of white paper, plain white paper, just like this. Fold it in half, he said, like that, making sure the crease is nice and sharp. Okay, so it's been folded in two. And fold it in half again, making sure again that the creases are very sharp. Open up the paper and then crumple it up into a ball. Okay, I've crumpled the paper into a ball. Then you open the paper again, open it completely out. You see it's very creased, very crumpled and creased. And then you fold it in half again and then tear it into strips, like this. Okay, so I've torn the paper into strips, then you tear the strips, you rip them into little pieces. Okay, and then what he did, he put it just behind his hand like that and produced a completely undamaged piece of paper. I never managed to do it, ever.